You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 157, and my name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram and 5cardguys.com. With me co-hosting as usual is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards. And John's away again this week, but he should be back with us for our next episode. Okay, off the top, there's been some high-level departures recently in the hobby world, and I wanted to talk about one of them right now. And the other big name we'll talk about in our next segment. But first, Brian Gray stepped down from his role as CEO of Leaf Trading Cards. And in the press release, if you haven't seen it, it said, quote, "This strategic move comes as part of the company's ongoing efforts to enhance its leadership team and position itself for continued growth and success in the dynamic trading card market," end quote. Very corporate.
What does that mean in regular terms?
So like, we're going a new direction.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
pretty much it.
That's what I got.
TLDR.
Yeah.
Okay. But, Brian being Brian, he also tweeted out why he was leaving,
Right.
and he said he was stepping down to focus on health, family, and his quote is, "All the things I love about life that were relegated to the back burner over these 3 decades," end quote. So one thing about Brian is that I think he was a polarizing character in the hobby, right? People either loved him, and you saw that on Twitter or X after he announced him stepping down, with a lot of people praising his contributions to the hobby
Right.
over those 30 somewhat years, which is a long time in the hobby. So credit where it's due there. And then there's others that really didn't pay much attention to him at all during those 3 decades and just thought Leaf was a subpar product, right? Or a card company. So I want to ask you, Hyung, like, your initial thoughts on Brian Gray, him being out as Leaf CEO?
Oh man, I think he gets a lot of slack for that, like his role with Leaf, I guess, because Leaf,
Right.
and this is maybe to more newer hobbyists in the game, because I feel like if you dig deep, he's a well-known figure in the hobby as a hobbyist. It's a tight-knit group out of Texas, so even he has a lot of loyal supporters that support him. Even in the hobby, a lot of people talk to him. He's on podcasts, and he's had Leaf since 2010, I think. So he's been around, the thick and thin with Leaf as well. It's a brand that was massive, and when we were growing up, that was a big set, right? So it was more of a premium high end set. But it's crazy to see that the step back they had to take, and how important licensing is at the end of the day, right? So I think a lot of people, like, you're right, it's polarizing, and I think his ability to maybe handle all these changes that have come to the hobby, because at the end of the day, I think he was more of a hobbyist than someone from the corporate side just trying to run a business, although he does have a business background. So for me, obviously I support anybody who's out in the trenches trying to grow a company or a brand. It's not as easy as people think, but I also think that it was probably the best move. And I think from what I get out of it, he still has shares in the company. And he stepped down as his position as CEO, right? So I do believe that he still has stake in the company, whether that was part of a deal where he had to liquidate some of his shares and kind of step out and just take a back seat. But yeah, I believe they already announced the new CEO.
That's right, Kevin O'Neill.
Kevin O'Neill, he comes from the top side, right?
Yeah,
I believe
so.
Yeah, so I mean, Leaf was in a tough situation in my opinion. They have a very, very niche collector database that really are loyal to to that. And some guys love, the whole pop culture and, the different avenue that they have. So they have their own kind of niche. But again, I think he gets a lot of slack for being associated with Leaf.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too. But I think later on in his tenure as Leaf CEO, he was becoming more of the news,
right?
Like instead of the company. And I think generally that becomes an issue sometimes,
right?
When you're not seen as putting the company first, and then people question if he can handle the incoming pressure. And speaking of all the slack that he's getting, some of it's I would say some of it's deserved, and others yeah, maybe it's a little too harsh. Like I've checked out blowout forums, and those guys are pretty harsh on Brian Gray, right?
Our family at Blowout is an absolute oh man, you don't want to get on their bad side, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it was obvious. I think one of them commented saying all of 2 Leaf collectors will be devastated.
And then the comment was, when did they double their fan base?
Yeah. Right. Oh man, that's too harsh. Come on, guys. Come on. But yeah, you have to give credit. Like I said earlier, someone that's been in the hobby for that long, at least that he loved the hobby. Whether he did a good job, that's all relative, and that's everyone else's opinion. But you know what? Going back to you already mentioned the successor was named. His name's Kevin O'Neill. With this new change in leadership, do you think Leaf transitions into becoming something bigger and better, or do you think Leaf will stay more or less the same?
That's a tough question. Optimistically looking at it, you hope that they're doing the right moves for the right reasons. And yeah, I think it's inevitable that change needed to take place. Whether or not you're gonna actually see a difference, I think the big thing is Leaf doesn't have licensing, right? Yeah. So whether it's a move closer to a Fanatics, thing in the future, who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold completely on saying, wow, he was the sole reason why Leaf didn't go anywhere. I think there's a lot of different bigger hurdles that they kind of have to overcome before, being relevant again in the hobby. And like I said, there's pocket niches that are great for the hobby. And I think that's an area where they could, continue to kind of like pursue. And it has its own kind of, demand for it. So I'm not going to say it's a complete shamble, but you know what? I think it was inevitable, to be honest, or, some type of movement forward of whatever brand, right? And I think a lot of these hobbyists become those roles kind of by default, being in that position before the whole boom where newcomers, big money starts coming in, corporate money starts coming in, it kind of changes kind of like the vision where before it was more of a family structured like viewpoint where it's not a massive Topps company type or Fanatics company type vision. And I think that's where it's going to eventually try to go, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. To your point, I think a general shakeup was probably necessary, especially for Leaf. And, it could be like a fresh start kind of look. And I don't know how much. I think Brian Gray, I might have read somewhere that he handpicked his successor. So that could be good or bad, really. Like,
I don't know what to take about that.
So it's like, is it going to just be a continuation of what you've been doing, Brian? Or are you just really giving him full reign for this next chapter of Leaf? So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen for sure. Very practical advice. Maybe hire a couple of graphic designers to make the cards look a little more appealing. Maybe get a little more on-card autos,
the Frank Thomas Leaf, that's all I remember as a kid. That was the chase.
That's iconic for sure, especially for those who grew up in the junk wax era. Yeah. What happened? Okay, let's talk about the other high-level departure in our next segment, hobby headlines. Now, there's been so much hobby news lately, right? And I feel like the departure of Jeromy Murray, who is now the former president of Beckett, was completely overshadowed. Now, we've been talking about Beckett and the screw-ups they've made over the past few years. Like, if you guys don't remember, the new grading scale fiasco, that was a disaster. And more recently, even, I would put that whole news about the PSA 5 crossing over to become a BGS 10. Something
wow.
like
I heard
there's some
that.
QC kind of issues there. So it seemed like a matter of time, really, until something had to give at Beckett. Now, in the past, we even suggested whether Fanatics, since they're acquiring everything these days, maybe they should make a bid for Beckett to bring grading in-house for them. But short of that happening, right? Short of Fanatics acquiring them, I had a question for you, Hyung. If you took over as the new president of Beckett, and this might be a really good question for you because you're an entrepreneur and you run businesses. If you were the new president, they're like, Hyung, you got the reins. You're the new president of Beckett. What would you focus on in trying to make Beckett more competitive against companies like PSA, of course, and even SGC, who some would argue leapfrogged them?
Man, I think one thing Beckett does have is brand value. Like
Absolutely.
They have so much brand value, but it's unfortunate how they didn't capitalize when they needed to. Mm-hmm. So I think their internal issues. So I think rewinding it and seeing Beckett as a whole company, I think a lot of people have the illusion that because we grew up in that junk wax era, Beckett was the big deal. And for me, I view Beckett as kind of like a small business that, was in the hobby before the boom and kind of didn't know how to handle the demand for their product. And it was a thing that I think really, really killed them. It was their catalyst to their downfall, in my opinion, is their internal operations, right? I think that's where they started losing trust with loyal fans before the pandemic, right? This was an issue before, and it just literally multiplied when, the supply started pouring in. And I think this is where they mishandled a lot of things. They focused on more defensive strategies just to get by rather than invest more money to maybe invest in areas where they could patch it up and, create sustainability and create more revenue streams. I think they deserve a 2 out of 10 on the marketing scale. They did not exist during the biggest boom of the pandemic, during the pandemic and the card boom. And PSA went, full force. Yeah. And they were an equal before, right? And now, PSA separated that gap, and it was basically, Beckett's kind of like, I guess their lack of kind of like being proactive to basically, and in business, for me, I'm a big believer in the best defense is a strong offense, especially in times like this where, the market is on a tremendous bull run. You have to capitalize. You can't be, scared to make moves at that point, which I felt Beckett was doing a lot. So I think they really lost a lot of steam and a lot of loyal fan bases, throughout how they mishandled, I guess, the whole situation. And, seeing, what's his name? Was it, who's the one that got let go? The former president?
Jeromy Murray.
Jeromy Murray, yeah. So Jeromy Murray is a lifer at Beckett. This guy started, in sale or customer service, back in the early 2000s, kind of been there for the last 20 plus years, and kind of done everything, right? And I think that's kind of the issue too, is when you have someone with kind of like the lens, kind of like, I guess, not a big picture thinker, because you've seen things internally and you have a bias of those kind of like perspectives, because you're very limited basically on the day-to-day operations. So I think that one, because he came in, he was a VP around 2018, right before the boom. So this is when Beckett started kind of like, having, some issues with grading and quality control and consistency and timing. Yeah. And then he moved into his role right when, on the full boom, right? So, I think that would played a large role in it as well, as the lack of kind of like outside visionaries of where the company needs to go and what needs to be done. And yeah, it's unfortunate because if I ran the company, man, I would have reinvested big time in that. I would have got, whether I would have funded it or like got private investors to fund it. There was huge opportunity at the time. And someone who's a leader of a company needs to see those opportunities and jump on it. And especially with their brand, how strong their brand is, right? So, and I think they still have that. And going to the marketing side, I think they really missed out on opportunities of why they were special in the first place. People new into the hobby really didn't know. They're like, oh, these are bulky, ugly slabs. But we're like, well, Beckett's one of the more respectable brands. Why is it? You could go on. You could talk about, Beckett. Yeah. Beckett catalogs, how they got us into the hobby, how that was the hottest thing. Simple stuff like pop count. If I want to know a Beckett pop count, I should be able to Google it and find it within 2 seconds. Right. So stuff like that, where they're not thinking about the end consumer and technology and how you could kind of like coexist and really help serve its customer base in terms of the problem solution standpoint. So yeah, that's my two cents on, if I did own Beckett, that's what I would have really addressed.
I like it. That's a pretty robust plan, and maybe you should apply. I don't know if they named the successor yet.
Oh man, yeah, no, not yet. I don't think.
But I know you're busy too. But no, I totally agree with you. Like I had the sense that Beckett was playing it safe, especially through the pandemic, which was probably the wrong move. Well, I think the results show for themselves, right? So yeah, I don't mind the slabs. I'm still, maybe it's nostalgia. I still like and prefer the BGS slabs over PSA. I've mentioned this on the pod before, and people think I'm crazy. Some people think I'm crazy, but and I agree with you. They, despite all their mistakes, they still have their brand equity. Like that's the one thing going for them. But nothing lasts forever. You can only make so many screw ups, and you can only do nothing for however long before companies like I mentioned, SGC catch up, and they're making moves. They're building partnerships and they're creating new experiences. Like this is what Beckett should be doing as well, right?
Absolutely.
And PSA is stepping up in that regard too. Like they're kind of going at each other, and it feels like Beckett is just still on the sidelines, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I like your point about, Jeromy Murray being a lifer there. Like, definitely you need fresh perspective. Even like you might be, you might have blind spots, especially when you're there for a long time. And sometimes making radical or even slightly difficult decisions might not make you a popular person for a limited time, but sometimes you got to make those decisions to make the business step forward. And from what I hear, like when he was let go, like a lot of people were upset. Like a lot of people actually liked Jeromy Murray. Like they were his buddy, and that's great. But sometimes that goes into what we're saying. Like, was he just kind of, trying to appease everyone and playing it super safe for that reason, because he didn't want to ruffle any feathers or, just kind of.
That was kind of like the thing I was mentioning too with Leaf. Even Beckett, like the illusion that Beckett's this massive company, I think it was a more tight-knit group than you would think. Everybody knows everybody in the office kind of deal. And, they supported him. They've seen him for 20 plus years, but this is the issue. It's like when you have a whole shift in a marketplace, right? You have different money, different people coming in because they see it as opportunity. Right. So this is where you have to either say, okay, I'm either going to go with that and seek out that opportunity, meaning, fresh eyes, like you said, or we step back. And this is where I think it went wrong. It's like it was such a tight-knit, a smaller group, because you're right. I see the tweets, and the way he was let go was probably not the most professional way, but that's the harsh reality of, corporations, businesses. And it's not saying that, I side with them, but it's reality. So I can't be blind to the fact that, they would do something like email and just saying you're out next, right? It's like, well, that's how life goes. And unfortunately, it's not the right way to do it, but it is what it is.
That's business. Yeah, that's business.
That's business.
Well, let's say this. Just say we're like, you know what? We're going to take over. And I think we need to raise funds because we want to spend now.
Let's do
like,
it.
You know, yeah. We'll talk after the show. And we like, okay, we got millions now. We got people invested. People believe in the brand still. And they think, you know, we could fix this. This is not a sinking ship. We could fix, you know, Beckett.
Right.
What would you do in terms of like spending that capital? Like any idea?
One, it would be internal operations. You gotta be able to scale upwards to take more. So I think that's number one issue is being good at what you're usually good at, which is grading, giving honest grades. So you gotta invest in that right away. And then the second thing is the marketing. It's like, you know, show people why you guys are so special. You have so many stories. You have so many, you know, things that, you know, even teach people about grading, the process internally, how things are going, you know, show people. Like, I still think black labels is the only thing that's saving Beckett right now. You know, the black label, because they're such in such high demand. So stuff like that where, you know, market yourself on why you're good. And like, you know, I don't even know why they're good anymore. It's like I'm starting to believe that they're not, right? Like, but that's the whole point. Like, marketing serves that purpose. Is if you're out in front of your customers every day, showing that you care, showing that you're making changes, showing that, you know, you're deservingly, you know, a top 3 grading company within the marketplace. You got to start really playing the game, which is what we talk about, you know, is content creation, digital marketing, you know, awareness, attention, you know, conversion, right? From there, right? So I think that's where I would go in terms of kind of like, you know, and from the first point in terms of like speeding up the process internally logistically, it would be investing in certain technologies that allow us to grade more cars faster. It's not saying that you're taking the whole human element out of it, but there are things that you could expedite in terms of the process that's done with technology. So you got to be able to be open to using technology for your benefit instead of thinking that it's always a bad word.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with you 100%. And on that front, you know, if you use technology, you know, spend money on technology, make the grading process more efficient. I think the number one thing that you could do and really put pressure on PSA is be more transparent in how they're grading, right? So just say you use technology, you're like, yeah, this is why this got a BGS 10, BGS 9.5, the black label, like, just imagine, you know, the black labels are rare and they're very coveted, but you got a card that you're going to give a black label to. Now, how about if you create content around that, explaining this is why we're giving this a BGS 10 black label, right?
100%.
And be totally transparent. And now people are like, okay, we're getting more confidence in Beckett because no other car company is really doing this, right? So,
and I probably would have sent in like 100 cards that video because I wanted that black label.
See, there you go. That one's for free, Beckett. That one's for free. But and you know what another thing is? I was just thinking, like, bring back the Beckett magazine. It doesn't have to be
100%.
It doesn't have to be like the price up and down. Obviously, we have the internet for that now, but build on that nostalgia of the Beckett
100%.
magazine. Make it like, you know, make it 100 pages. Like, make it a nice, thick, high quality magazine. It could be a quarterly. It doesn't have to be monthly.
Quarterly would be great. Yeah, absolutely.
And just really make it an awesome magazine.
That is
People
the
will buy it
greatest.
just for the nostalgia.
That is the great. I'm telling you, Beckett magazines are the greatest. Like, in the bathroom, kind of like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just leave it there, and you know you'll have some entertainment. So yeah, I 100% agree that, you know, that was one thing that I wish they kept, you know, doing, or at least I knew Beckett for that was the catalogs, right? It's like I would just, and that's how I actually educated myself on the sets. This is how I knew that the 52 Tops, you know, Mantle existed, is because it was the most expensive card in the whole catalog, even in the 80s and 90s. So it's like, for me, that's how I learned what cards were valuable in the first place, because you would see common cards and you're like, okay, nobody wants this, but then why is this Mickey Mantle worth so much money, right? And then you hear the stories behind it, the rarity and everything. was a process of growth within the hobby. So stuff like that, where that's all cultural based. This is great for business. If you could, have that nostalgia given to your fan base, that's a huge upside that you kind of bring, which they're not even, looking into or capitalizing, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And while you're talking, I was thinking, if you have a subscription-based magazine, let's say it's quarterly and it's high gloss, it's a lot better. You've upgraded it. For the subscribers, every once in a while, periodically, specially mark a few of those magazines. And if you get that magazine edition, you get a nice card, a nice Beckett slabbed card.
That's like ripping. That's like a ripping element to Beckett catalogs.
You got to subscribe though. You got to subscribe. You got to be a subscriber. So you're locked in for a little bit. But this is what I mean. Just why not? It's part of the 100%. Whole experience now.
And it could have other benefits of crossover with rating specials, for subscribers and stuff like that, right? So
I like it. Man.
So when are we making an offer for Beckett? We're gonna crowdfund through Cards to the Moon podcast, and then we're gonna take over Beckett.
Let's do it. Those 2-3 ideas right there. That's only the beginning. That's just the peak of the iceberg. We got a lot more. So Beckett's gonna make a comeback. All right. It's interesting times though. I talked to Mac Gamble the last episode, and I asked him, what do you think the hobby's going to look like in 5 to 10 years? And he was just joking around saying, I guess everyone's quitting right now and stepping down. So there's going to be job opportunities. So it's an interesting time in the hobby, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on now to a brand new segment we're calling Ask ChatGPT.
Oh boy.
I think this will be fun. So Hyung, you and I, we're big fans of ChatGPT as a tool to improve our efficiency in a variety of tasks, right?
Absolutely. Every day I use it every day. I talk to ChatGPT every day. We have full-blown conversations.
He's my best friend. So you know what? I thought we might as well use ChatGPT to help create content for our podcast too, right? I think,
Absolutely.
I'm surprised we didn't think of this earlier, to tell you the truth. So here's what I did. I asked ChatGPT a hobby-related question, and essentially the segment is about you guessing what ChatGPT came up with.
Oh, okay? Wow.
And then afterwards, we can discuss if we agree with ChatGPT's response.
Okay. Quick question.
Yes.
Is it updated or not? Because that will play a role.
That's true. I think because it is up to 2021.
I believe some stuff. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Just put it out there just in case.
Keep that in mind for sure. But the question I asked it's more dated, I guess. So it's not like what's the best card that came out in 2022. So I'm not asking that kind of question.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
I think I think it'll be clearer once we get started. Okay.
Sorry. I jumped the gun. I'll let you speak.
No, that was legit. That was a good question. So the question for this segment, I asked ChatGPT, name the top 10 most iconic sports cards of all time. Okay.
All time. Okay.
So I asked ChatGPT, my best friend, name the top 10 most iconic sports cards of all time. Okay. So let's see how many you can get of the top 10 that ChatGPT spit out. And then, like I said, afterwards, we'll talk about whether we think ChatGPT was right or if ChatGPT missed something in that top 10 list. Okay?
Oh, man.
So, yeah, you can name whatever card you want, and I'll
tell you. So, we'll say 52 Mantle.
52 Mantle is on the list, yes.
Okay. We got to go 86 Fleer, MJ.
86 Fleer, MJ, number 2. The Mickey Mantle was number 5 on that list. So, yeah, you got 2 and 5.
So, we'll go Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr., 89.
Number 8 on that list.
Number 8.
3 for 3. Here we go.
Okay. So this is sports cards in general?
Yes.
Iconic, eh? So we'll say 79 OPC, Wayne Gretzky.
Number 4 on that list.
Okay. 03 Topps Chrome LeBron.
03 Topps Chrome LeBron is not on that list.
Okay. 2011 Topps update, Mike Trout.
Also not on that list.
Really? Okay, so it may be more vintage. Who's your friend here? Is this ChatGPT? He or she or whatever they identify as. What are they saying? Who I gotta be okay. Willie Mays. There has to be a Willie Mays. No.
Also not on that list, but you're on the right track. There
Jackie
is a
Robinson.
few more vintage. Jackie Robinson, 1948 Leaf is number 10 on that.
Do
list.
we have a Leaf?
The Leaf rookie. Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
we got it. There you go.
Good tie-in. Good tie-in.
Yeah. Okay. Are we staying along the lines of multi-sport or baseball?
There are still baseball. You're missing number one. Very,
Number one, okay.
very iconic.
The Honus Wagner.
Yes, the T206,
Yeah.
number one.
Yeah. And then let's see. Iconic.
Two iconic athletes that are more modern, I guess. So not vintage, but yeah.
Okay.
Think about the best in their sport.
Tiger Woods.
No.
No,
Think
Tiger
about
Woods.
Football. And
So
basketball.
Tom Brady.
Yes. Which one?
Bowman.
No.
Is Bowman Chrome? No.
No. The other one.
What's his other one?
The 2000 Playoff Contenders Championship rookie
Contenders.
ticket.
We were just
Yeah.
talking about contenders. How it's so overrated. But
You think?
this
But that
cards
card
like
is
this.
iconic.
But that's why it makes the set iconic, right?
Yes. Yes.
So Tom Brady contenders. That's that's a pretty iconic card, I guess. I was looking for a more, I guess, base popularity card. But so how many do we have left? 3.
So you got 3 left, yeah, and I think 2 of them are pretty hard. But the one you should get, you already named him as an athlete. You just got the wrong card. Basketball.
Basketball.
other
LeBron,
goats.
the exquisite.
Yes, the Upper Deck Exquisite
Yeah.
rookie patch auto.
Okay.
So now you're down to number 3 on that list and number 9 on that list. Number 3, vintage baseball, is pretty rare.
Pretty rare.
If you guess the athlete, I'll tell you the card.
So it's a well-known athlete, though.
Yes, 100%.
A Babe Ruth.
Yes, the Babe Ruth
Yeah,
1914
Oh, 14.
Baltimore News rookie card. Yeah,
That's a very
very rare.
Rare,
Almost
yeah.
like a postcard. Yeah, so that would be hard to guess. And number 9 is not one of your main sports, but he is an athlete that transcends sports.
It's
It's a 1960 card.
Oh wow.
He was very good with the gab.
The what?
The gab, like he was a very good, eloquent talker, trash
Oh,
talker.
Muhammad Ali.
Yes, Muhammad Ali, 1960.
Yeah. Wow.
Hammett's Journal rookie card was number 9.
Wow.
There you go. That was pretty good.
Yeah, it was a
actually.
good one. Yeah, I surprised myself. You know.
you ripped off 7 pretty quickly, and there was always a few that was more difficult. But what do you think of that list? ChatGPT got it right, or?
Yeah, I think for the most part, like, because it gets tough, I guess, because the newer cards, it started ranking them specifically with cards, whereas, you know, vintage, you have your 52 tops, and there's only one version of that, and that becomes the iconic card. Then you can't, that's why I would say, like, 2003 Topps Chrome LeBron, you know, just being, you know, iconic just because everybody kind of plays in that game. Whereas the exquisite is like super rare and, you know, like, but I guess that means it's iconic too, right? So
Sure.
yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, it was that was actually fun, you know, guessing the card just on top of your head because you're trying to envision it and you just always go blank when you're on the spot, especially when you're recording. Right?
Right. Yeah. No, I thought it was a pretty good list. You know, yeah, that's why we love ChatGPT. It's pretty
Absolutely.
smart.
Absolutely.
So there you go. If you've never used ChatGPT before for any research, you gotta experiment with it. But you know what? We'll do more of this. This is fun. Kind of
Yeah, for
easy,
sure.
easy content creation.
Maybe I'll come up with something, and then because you're always the guy that has to ask the questions, right? So
fair enough.
I'll come up with one.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna look like an idiot. That's why I like to come up with and ask you guys.
Yes. I was like, damn, you're putting me on the spot. I look like the guy who doesn't know anything now.
This is, but I'll mentally prepare for when we do this segment again. Okay, let's finish off this episode with a regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And if you're listening for the first time, or if you're a relatively new subscriber to our podcast, this is when each of us, we put up a couple of cards and then we debate which one we would rather invest in. All right. So Hyung, do you have one to start with?
Yes, I do. And, I always like to stick with baseball. And especially with Mookie Betts, starting to make some noise. Perfect time. I always love that. I sold my Mookie Betts once before he started getting hot.
Right.
But that's how the hobby goes always. And I still think he is a buy, to be honest, just based on his career accomplishments, his trajectory of he's not showing any sign of slowing down. I thought he was a guy that never was hot in the market ever. So his prices people were kind of off of it. There wasn't really a big chase. And I'm going to put him against the other candidate for MVP. So Mookie now is the favorite to win MVP in the National League. And Ronald Acuna Jr., who's my guy. I love Acuna. I love collecting Acuna. He got me kind of like hyped up in the hobby back in 2018. So he was a guy that I really like. But I think like I said, he's overpriced. He's been overpriced for the last 3 years. So I still think he's overpriced. But the big MVP chase kind of held his prices up, and his Bowman Chrome 2017 BGS 9.5 auto sold for $1,226, which is down substantially. So now it's down to $1,226, the last price sold, with a pop count of 522. And Mookie Betts prices are up. His 2014 Bowman Chrome auto BGS 9.5, and these are both True Gems Plus. Sold for $990. And it has a pop count of 715. So the Mookie has a higher pop count, which makes sense because a lot of people were like Bowman Chromes were always BGS. And then they started really picking up the PSA steam, I'd say 2019-ish, 2018. So you have a lot less Acuna with BGS, but that doesn't mean that it's more scarce at the same time. So I'm not going to really take into consideration pop count on this because it is BGS 9.5, but the Mookie is $990 versus $1,226. What's the better investment? If I'm like, okay, I'm going to invest in the MVP this year, right? For all our listeners, who would you invest in?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I think it's easier for me because I've been thinking about this over the last couple of weeks. Yes, right? So I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be Mookie Betts for me. Right. Okay. And people know, longtime listeners of this podcast know that I sold that BGS 9.5 Mookie Betts Bowman Chrome auto for a grand $70, right? Yeah. And then I bought it for 30. So I'm like, yes, killed it. And now it's, 900 something. So I'm like, whatever. I can't buy back into it. But then, I'm seeing what Mookie's doing, like just the consistency. Yeah. And then I was actually listening to Bill Simmons' podcast the other day, and he's a Boston guy, right? And he's still pissed that Boston gave him up for pretty much nothing. Pretty much, yeah. And then he's like, if there was one guy you could bank on to play for the next 10 years, it would probably be Mookie. It's just like very athletic, keeps in shape. Is
Mookie going to surpass Mike Trout, you think?
Possible.
That's the talks right now.
Possible. Health.
What would the card market look like then?
So this is what I'm saying. Don't say it too much because I'm trying to buy Mookie now. I'm trying to get back in.
You have a week. You have a week to buy into Mookie.
Before this comes out. But But yeah, so I think like he's just undervalued.
Yeah.
Totally undervalued for what he's doing. And, we didn't even talk about his defensive, prowess. Like he's Bill Simmons says he's like a Swiss Army knife on defense. You could put him anywhere. And he's
short,
like,
second, outfield, right field, center field.
Natural ability to play all essentially positions.
All sports too.
All sports too, yeah. Did you see a clip of where he's a great bowler?
Oh, he bowls 300s. Like
it's like this guy is blessed.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of the Steph Curry of the baseball side. Right. Anything Steph Curry Good does comp. Is like ridiculous. Like Mookie Betts, yeah.
Good comp. So I'm eating all this up. The algorithm's feeding me Mookie clips now, right? Like on my Instagram, I'm all about Mookie. And for me, Ronald Acuna, like I love that he's having the season he has, right? But he kind of reminds me of Shohei in the sense that, like when you're in the middle of it, you're FOMO. Like this is, amazing. Sure. And then what happens to Shohei? Like there are always things that happen, and it's not like Ronald Acuna has a clean bill of health like history,
Right.
And it's good until it's not.
Right.
And I think Ronald Acuna is kind of in that boat where I'm, if I FOMO buy, I'm not confident that he's going to have a complete, healthy season next year. Like anything could happen, and there's always going to be opportunities to buy on the dip.
We said this in Shohei's first MVP year.
Yeah. Right.
Just putting it out there.
Yep. So anyway, going back to your pick one, Mookie for me.
Nice. I expected you to say that, and I'm gonna also expect me to say the same answer, but I think it was more so to prove a point on why. Because we still obviously see a lot of activity on Acuna. I'm on multiple like Acuna collectors pages too, so I still like collecting Acuna. I still actually I'm a big collector. People don't know this, but like guys like Ohtani, Acuna, I collect Trout like their base cards. Like in all years, like when I pull, I don't sell them. I just keep them. And then now, like I have like probably 200 Ohtani cards or whatever it is. He probably has 1 million though. But like it just kind of like adds up. So I always like collecting guys like Acuna. So like I'm a big Acuna collector in general. But yeah, it's just the value that Mookie Betts has and how ridiculous his talent is, and even talks about like future conversations of him surpassing Mike Trout. We've seen what happened with Mike Trout cards, especially the super high-end Bowman Chromes, where people are starting to put stuff away in the safe. You don't see them anywhere. And I remember that with Mookie. I remember I could have bought a gold auto Bowman Chrome out of like 50 for like next to nothing. Right. It's still down, I think, but I think the last sold was like 12.5K for a BGS 9.5. You think at Mike Trout prices, his red sold for 350K or whatever. A gold will probably do over 100K. So it's like, where is Mookie in that equation? Where is that massive, price differential, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
That's why I think Mookie in general is still a good buy. I think if we're talking trajectory of, one of the greatest of our generations, he has to be considered. When it's all said and done, especially if he keeps up this pace, he's going to be over 100 WAR before his career is over. And there's only a select few people that have 100 WAR careers. So yeah, I'm in on Mookie, and there's going to be a lot of time to buy into Acuna in the future. I don't think Acuna could keep this 30-60 pace up for a long time. As you see, all speed guys end up degressing when they're 29-30. When it gets there, it's a different ball game. So yeah, I like the upside of Mookie for sure.
Nice. That's a good one. All right, one week to buy a Mookie before this comes out. Okay. Okay, I'm sticking with baseball too for my pick one. So on one side, all right, I had to bring Shohei back in, just because of everything that's happened. So I want to see if it's factored into your decision with his injury. He's still hitting though, right? So that's good. But will you take his 2017 Bowman Chrome Mega Box Refractor? The WBC card. BGS 10, speaking of BGS 10, not black, but pristine.
All right.
gold label. Sold a couple weeks ago for almost $2,400. So that's your price range.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put up Aaron Judge. Kind of forgotten a little bit, but he's 30 homers. He was injured, but he's still hitting bombs. BGS 9510, his 2013 Bowman Chrome auto refractor.
Oh,
okay?
Wow.
Refractors aren't numbered. I used to have it. Remember, I sold it for a couple thousand, but now it's going for $2,400 again. The last sold in late July.
So it's a little up, right?
It's a little up. And it's autographed on card, of course. Refractor, not numbered, but BGS 9510 auto. Which one are you going for?
Man, what was the peak of that price of the Judge?
Of the Judge, it was almost 7,000.
Wow. Yeah, because of that, I think I'm gonna go with Judge because it's a Bowman Chrome auto. It's a refractor auto, not even a base auto. And I do like the WBC card. I think it's an iconic card for Shohei. It's one of those things again with you. It's like I remember I had raw cards of those. Like it was like they're okay. They're like, oh, this is a cool card. This is Japan WBC. I never thought that they would be worth what they're worth today, right? So, I think because it's a non-auto card, I think that's one of the cards like you want as a Shohei collector. It's his earliest Western card, I would say. So it's definitely a good card, especially in a BGS 10. But it's a Bowman Chrome refractor auto of Aaron Judge. That's an insane card with huge upside still. I think Judge still has a lot of upside in his career. He doesn't seem like he's slowing down other than, staying healthy, which is everybody's concern when they turn 30 plus. I think his body could, handle a lot more seasons. I'm not too concerned with the longevity or breakdown of his body. So I'm going to go Aaron Judge. I think he's going to keep on hitting homers. And he's going to keep on being iconic. He's going to be a New York Yankee great. He already is. So, yeah, it's Judge for me.
Okay. Oh, man. Couldn't get you with the Shohei. It's going to be Judge. It's going to be Judge for me as well. Main reason, I hate paying for grades. Like the BGS 10, there's a premium on it already. And I don't.
Yeah, PSA 10s are like $1,500, so you're paying a $900 premium on the BGS. And we just finished talking about BGS on this episode. It's not worth more.
I would never buy a BGS 10.
Right.
I would love it if I submitted one and got back a BGS 10. But I don't think I would ever want to pay the premium just for the 10 grade,
right?
When it comes to BGS, So yeah, for that reason and everything you mentioned too, it's non-autoed. I prefer on-card auto of Judge, and I still believe in Judge's talent. Midterm anyway. Long-term, I don't know. He's a violent swing, right? But midterm, he should be fine. All right, that's it for today's episode. Again, we thank all our listeners and subscribers for tuning in, and we'll have a brand new episode next week, and we'll also announce the winner of the quiz show segment that I did during the Mac Gamble episode. I'm still waiting for responses. We're recording this episode a bit early, so I haven't gotten the response yet. But if you want to know what the quiz show segment was about and what the questions were, just go back to the Mac Gamble episode 156, I believe. And then you could DM us at Cards to the Moon on Instagram your answers, and then we'll do a random draw shortly thereafter. Okay, that's it. We'll see you next week. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.